What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy MM2K of PNTS Network, Hard Knock Digital Culture, back again with another stream. We're doing back-to-back streams. It's about time I play some damn games, ain't it, huh? All right, so we did a stream earlier where we talked about the effects of understanding the content here, because I get there's a lot of new people and a lot of people that have migrated from me doing majority cloud gaming stuff, and my cloud gaming support now is more behind the scenes. I haven't totally left creating content on Cloud Dosage. It's just that now we're having more, I think, more appropriate people, more people that are in tune with the current state of the community right now, that can really, I think, do a better job of navigating them through the paths that they need to navigate through. I mean, yeah, they can listen to me complain about Xbox all day and me and my granular speeches and conversations about the bigger discussion, but that's not helping them. You know what I'm saying? My conversations and discussions are out of scope of their current needs. So it doesn't really service them for me to sit here and tell them, oh, the thing that you like, I don't like it. Why sit here? Why would I subject them to that? And then you got to ask yourself too, why would you subject yourself to that? I know a lot of my commentary may not be for you, you know, so it's something that you may want to bypass. Like, for instance, if, you know, it's like you walking into a dentist and you say to me, and I'm the dentist, and you say to me, why are you drilling all these holes in people's teeth? And I'm like, look, man, they've been eating candy 360 days straight, not brushing their teeth and all that other stuff, and you know, it's bad out here, man. We got to do something about it. Well, I've been eating candy for multiple days straight and not brushing my teeth. I'm fine. And I take it, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, your teeth do look okay. How long you been doing it? Oh, I've only been brushing. I've only been eating candy and not brushing my teeth for 2 days straight. Okay, well, you don't have the lineage with this problem that these other people do. So you don't belong here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to go brush your teeth before you end up like these people. But right now, you don't belong here. So go brush your teeth, enjoy your candy, man. You know, you got to ask yourselves too, why am I subjecting myself to criticism that doesn't relate to anything that I'm looking at? You know what I mean? Like just because, but on the flip side, just because my criticism isn't something that you're looking at, it doesn't make the criticism less relevant. So all that stuff people have to look at. We had a great 2-part series where we try to define that for people. I feel like though that I've run that well dry in trying to explain that to people. So that might be it. I think we're done trying to explain the origins of our content, trying to help people understand that you got it all wrong. You gotta look at the content before we started doing Stadia Dosage. Like actually go look at my byline on PNTS Network, where it says that we're matter of fact, let's pull it up right now. I should have it up anyway, because I always do. I always show y'all the PNTS Network before we get started. So let's do this. Let's go to the web. This is what the hell? Oh, hell no. We gotta do something about it. This is PNTS Network. This is the site where we do all of our cloud gaming, regular gaming. Our talks and our conversations and stuff, they all go here. So being that you can come here and check us out on that website, you can get a lot of content from me that deals specifically with GeForce Now, Ubisoft games, and then a plethora of others. We got other PNTS Network members that are dropping content all the time that we put out here on this website. So you can definitely check it out there. That being said, we often, let me go here to MMT. We often update the site with individual monikers and stuff for all the contributors and so forth. And I'm trying to, okay, there we go. So this is MM2K Gaming. These are my, this is my bio. This has been my bio since we started the website, originally in 2017. Bio is hardcore gamer who hates media bias in the community. Started off with the New Age faction team. That's what NAF talks about. Pushing separate system co-op. After dealing with system fanboys, he shifted his goals for ensuring hardcore gaming consumer is best informed as possible. Hardcore gaming consumer. We're talking, when I talk about hardcore, I'm talking hardcore games, AAA genre defining stuff. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about hardcore game. I'm not talking about people that just play a bunch of games. Nah. I'm talking about what you're playing. That's been my byline since 2017. All right. So hopefully people understand that. All right. So now that we've done that, let's go back to the situation at hand. We want to talk about this article from Windows Central. But before we get into the article about Windows Central that's questioning PlayStation won the console war, will Xbox let them win the cloud gaming? Let them win cloud gaming too. And this is from Jez Gordon, a known Xbox enthusiast and writer for Windows Central. But before we get into that, I want to touch on this, and touch on the ongoing discussion. So since the Xbox One generation, Xbox has moved away from the focal points that made them the powerhouse that almost brought PlayStation to its knees, that really put PlayStation on notice that, hey, look, we ain't playing around. We are a powerhouse in gaming. And you're not going to just whoop on us like you whooped on everybody else continuously. We're here to stay. The 360 generation did that. How they done that is they were able to do that through critically acclaimed AAA genre defining content, innovations in tech and approaches to how you game and things like that. They really defined Western development in gaming and brought it to the forefront in ways that we have never seen before. And the tech enhancements and the multimedia stuff that they brought to gaming consoles, I mean, you just haven't seen it, and they were at the forefront of that. So with that being said, when Phil Spencer took over Xbox, was appointed the head of Xbox, and Satya Nadella, as a result of Satya Nadella becoming CEO, they responded to people that were concerned about them steering away from these focal points of, hardcore gaming, you know what I'm saying, and curating more hardcore games like Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire, BioShock, Mass Effect, you know what I'm saying, being a vital source of Bethesda games getting showcased, Morrowind, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, you know what I mean. They stepped away from that. And in response to people being concerned of them curating those level of games, Gears, and so forth, Satya and Phil told their consumers, we're getting there. We just got to reshift our focus. We got to make some investments, and we're going to get back to creating those great experiences. But now it's going to be under a new and more revitalized Xbox that is now going to give you cloud gaming. Well, first it was UWP. We're going to give you UWP. We're going to give you those grand experiences, day and date in our subscription service. We're going to, now we're going to put it on the cloud. We're going to be available on PC. We're going to do all this stuff. So we're going to get back to form that made you a fan in the first place, but then we're going to do it with a broader footprint. And things didn't quite land the way that they promised. Now, with that being said, many are fine with the reshift in focus, because the way it was framed is like, look, we got to do things a little bit differently. We got to become a more we got to do better financially. So once we get the finances together and we're profitable and we're not bleeding money, that gives us the incentive to, get back to form as far as bringing you those genre defining games. Now, even though there is a large sector of Xbox gamers that are waiting for them to get back to form, so in that anticipation, they've been very, very dedicated. You hear monikers like "hold the line" and stuff like, you know what I mean? They're saying "hold the line," meaning, look, yeah, you look at PlayStation's numbers right now. They're putting out highly acclaimed games. We're going to get there. We're going to do that. We're going to put out highly acclaimed games just as good, if not better. We're going to be back on that stage again. Hold the line. We're getting there. We're building there. We're incrementally building there, and we're almost there, right? And we're doing things to get there. And the big argument is, is that even their goal, to really get there and bring back those elements? And B, if it is, are they doing it the right way? Those are the discussions that are being held everywhere, including the greater Xbox community. These aren't just haters saying this. Like the entire Xbox community just isn't blindly saying we believe you. They are concerned. They are optimistic, but they're concerned about this. They want this. This is not something that's not important to them. They want this, and they're optimistic, but they again are concerned if these things will come back. Now, before we get into those things that they're looking for, they're waiting for, let me admit this. In the revamp of Xbox, without those old pillars being reinstalled, There are gamers that just are simply happy with Xbox as it is now. They could care less about these genre defining experiences. And it's for a variety of reasons that they do that. And they're not right or wrong for doing so. Like, a lot of people just love Phil's presence. They love it. And he's just so inviting and such a charming individual. Hey, I want to be part of a product, anything that this guy is selling. There's people that love the Xbox communication style. They love them engaging with the community. They love the fan affair. You know what I'm saying? That's important to them. So that's another reason for some people. There is, simply put, a lot of their friends just refuse to leave the Xbox ecosystem. These are the people that they play with. They may have been interested in PlayStation, but what's important to them is this is where their friends are at, right? And then lastly, there's just and this isn't the definitive list on why people don't care about those old pillars coming back or those original pillars coming back. But there's just some people that just simply don't like PlayStation. They just don't like it. They don't like the community. They don't like the product, the service, the people involved. They just don't like PlayStation. So those are just samples of why there are people that legitimately, and they're not wrong for whatever they like. They like what they like. Why? What the hell is this? There again, just are some people that refuse to, I don't know what this is that came up on my screen. They just refuse to even look at PlayStation as a viable option. Hold on one second. All right, so PlayStation just isn't a viable option for them, or they just have for those reasons, and they don't need those old pillars back, right? However, many within the community are, again, they're optimistic, but they're concerned, and they are expecting the submergence of the old pillars. What are those old pillars? Better AAA games. Games on the tier of how Gears used to be, how Halo used to be. Them partnering with developers, second party developers, or coming up with second party ideas on the realm of BioShock and Mass Effect. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for also the cloud gaming efforts or the game everywhere efforts to really catapult the medium into mainstream support. They're expecting the cloud, like you talking about, I don't need to sell you a console. Well, if you don't need to sell me a console, that means that my cloud gaming experience is going to be on par in many ways, reasonably, with my console experience. Meaning that when I look at your cloud gaming competitors, you're going to be along with the top ones or ahead of the top ones. So if I'm seeing 4K 120 from NVIDIA GeForce Now, all right, maybe you don't do that, but you got 4K 60 coming out. The latency is great. The screen quality is great. All that stuff. Like you're a top echelon as far as output is concerned via me playing on the cloud. I can get a la carte purchases pretty much anywhere else. I can get them from you too. Like those things that are at the top echelon of what cloud gaming can do, you can do those things and probably and some, because that's the way you were selling cloud gaming to me. And that's what got me invested in your if you guys are this gung-ho about this medium, and you being Microsoft with some of the smartest engineers in the world, then this must be a reality. This must be coming sooner rather than later. So I'm all into it because I'm not hearing anything from PlayStation. I may prefer PlayStation as a console, but if you guys are going to be able to do all this, I got to look at the bigger picture now. I'd rather invest my money into this ecosystem knowing that I'll be able to do all this, and I'm just going to have to say bye-bye to PlayStation because there could only be one. Every gamer can't buy multiple consoles. There can only be one. Also, you're implementing significant gaming tech to your ecosystem. I mean, you attempted it with Kinect, that kind of fell short, but maybe you got something new on the horizons. Maybe you're going to get into VR. You did say that you can't have a next-gen gaming experience without VR. Your head of gaming came out there and said that unprompted. You have to have a broad-reaching blueprint for Game Pass, meaning it's cool that you're giving people a cheap option to play, but what are you going to put in this subscription service? How is it going to operate that will make my investment into it something that I feel like will be viable long-term? Because if I'm investing in this, that's taken away from my ability to buy games. See, a lot of people look at Game Pass and say, "Oh, these people don't want to play games, or don't want to buy games." But what's happened is, if you have limited resources, and you're like, "Okay, well, this is the thing that I'm going to invest in. I'm going to get used to this because it's only going to get better." That's taking away from your ability to buy, your ability to purchase. Because instead of, maybe saving up a few months for that $70 game that you want, you don't have the money for it anymore because you're getting hit $15 a month for Game Pass. But you're being sold it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. So you're in it, messing around with the ecosystem. You find some enjoyment in it, but again, you're trying to get locked into it. Maybe get grandfathered into it early, kind of like what you see with Amazon Luna and some other services, right? You're like, man, I've been told that this thing is going to be great. Let me get into this service now. And people make investments like that. Like sometimes they just jump out of the window and do that and not think transactionally about how that's going to affect their bottom line. But that's why subscription services, when they do work, that's how they do work. They get people in it like, oh, something big is coming. Let me get into this now. When people could very easily, well, let me wait till that big thing happens. You know what I'm saying? But that's the psychology behind the consumerism. So people are waiting for Game Pass to be that big, not just the biggest subscription service in gaming, because there's not a lot. And subscription services in gaming aren't a huge business altogether. Like the biggest services in gaming are services like PlayStation Plus, Essential, right? And Xbox Live with Gold, but now they call it Xbox Core. Those are the biggest. Well, okay, I got to pay to go play online. And then in PlayStation scenario, and I'm getting a free few games for it. Those are the biggest services out there when it comes to gaming. And last but certainly not least, powerful hardware that complements the best of console gaming at the medium and high end levels. You're telling me that when you guys did interviews and said that Xbox will never lose in the power narrative ever again? Let me see if I can find that. That was almost disastrous. Xbox will never lose in the power narrative. Let me see. Okay, so Google being horrible at what it does. What is it? It's important to note. It says statements like, let me put Phil Spencer says. Phil Spencer say. Let me do this. Did Phil Spencer say? Here's what we need to do. We're going to apply the filters anytime, custom range, and then we're going to say let's go from January 1st, 2017 to December 31st, 2019. We should even do this when the tough gets going. Hold on. We're going to say Phil Spencer power narrative. We put Phil Spencer Xbox power narrative. See what it comes up with. What's going on? Or let's say Xbox power narrative. Tomb Raider. I gotta find that interview. Set up your Xbox. Oh, did it? I gotta find that interview where that's why it's hard when somebody says something specific in an interview. You got to have the exact phrasing in it, because unfortunately Google is not good, and I'm not super proficient with any of this AI searching stuff, but I'm pretty sure it would be able to find something. But yeah, Xbox, or there was an interview where people where it was alluded that Xbox will never lose the power narrative. Like, we'll never lose the power narrative again. I can't remember if that was like on a Twitch interview or something like that. If it wasn't in an article and you hear it in a video and that video hasn't been transcribed and put on Google, you're going to be hard pressed to find that stuff. That's why it's important to bookmark everything. But that being said, it's a problem when you use certain terminology like, we're going to have the world's most powerful console, and then you're sitting there placating to creators that are saying things like there's going to be 40 to 50 frame deltas between the Xbox and the PlayStation, meaning that Xbox generally will be playing games at 40 to 50 frames higher than the PlayStation. You have quote unquote former developers saying Xbox will, that developers are saying that it's difficult to develop for the PlayStation. They still can make great games for it, but it's so much easier to develop for Xbox, when they were saying the complete opposite. They were like, look, this S is a problem. Deal with it. So those are the things that people are looking at not just fanboys are arguing about and trying to get licks on Xbox about. These are discussions within the Xbox gaming community. The larger gaming discussion, even with Xbox purists, are over those things that I talked about. Better AAAs, the cloud gaming efforts, significant gaming tech implementation, broad-reaching blueprint for Game Pass to make it sustainable, powerful hardware that complements the best of console gaming. This scrutiny is at the top of the list because all within the mainstream communities know that if these things are not achieved as promised, the ecosystem will have a very difficult time having a good standing with gamers and seeing success down the road. They know that. So even if it doesn't matter to them, there's a lot of gamers within the Xbox community that are like, well, damn, if y'all can't execute on these things that you told people, these things that they're now looking forward to, you're going to have a hard future. And we explain why we focus on this. Again, because we're a platform that focuses on making sure that you get adequate, transparent, factual information. That's at the core of everything that we do at PNTS Network. We don't just shoot from the hip and make stuff up. It's got to be based on fact. However, even though our argumentation is based on fact, the particular argumentation and focus here is AAA genre defining gaming. What are these two pillars within that space doing to ensure that AAA genre defining gaming continues to be enhanced? Well, we got one that in PlayStation that is doing what they should be doing. Again, are they knocking it out of the park and taking gaming to all new heights? No, but they are contributing in a way that they should be. You know, there's been highs, there's been lows, but overall, their contribution has been satisfactory. Xbox, it hasn't been. Like I've said before, Xbox, they routinely have to be called into the office because they're on corrective action. They said they were going to do better, and then they're not doing better. And they keep doing these, it's like, you tell this employee, look, man, you're on corrective action. You're almost out the door. Oh, well, look, you know what? I bought me a briefcase. I bought me a 3-piece suit. You know what I'm saying? I got a calculator now. I got all these tablets. Trust me, I'm going to be on top of my job. And you got all this stuff on the periphery, but you're still underperforming. So all that stuff is just for show. It's gimmicks. You're not performing. I don't need you to have all that. I need you to perform. And Xbox is out here, Game Pass, cloud gaming, velocity architecture, this, that, and the other. And the only thing that I really think that they've landed on successfully as far as implementation is concerned is the controller, the latency in the controller. Everything else has not landed. Any of those core things have not landed in a way that has been highly effective for gamers. So that's what we do here. So with all that out of the way, with all that said, he says success is something that's no longer in Phil Spencer's vocabulary. There's a level of competency that just isn't there. And I think because they know it's not there, as far as the art is concerned, as far as the quality is concerned, you have a CEO that's not focused on the quality because he doesn't understand it. So he's just looking to make money off of this. How can we make money off of this? And how can we use how can we use gaming to thwart our enemies in the cloud? Because if we snatch away Activision Blizzard from Amazon, that's going to stifle their cloud gaming efforts. And that means that we're going to have more productivity in the cloud that they're going to have. So with that said, let's get to it. Let's react to the article. Again, this is not from me. This is from Jez Gordon. Windows Century says PlayStation won the console war. Well, Xbox let them win cloud gaming too. I want to do this because I'm going to highlight some things while we're discussing this. PlayStation is leapfrogging Xbox on cloud gaming. How did we get here? During the Kind of Funny XCast interview before the Xbox Not E3 event in June, Microsoft Gaming CEO and Xbox lead Phil Spencer conceded that the division couldn't out-console Sony PlayStation. Sony's lead in the so-called high-end console market has extended to 2-1, according to most reports. And you could conceivably extend further still to 3-1 in the coming years based on current trends. Indeed, Microsoft's Xbox hardware output was down 13% year over year in its quarterly earnings, although services like Game Pass and an expansion into PC gaming have helped keep Xbox in growth overall. I don't. Let's take a look at this. Hold on. Let's see something here. You know what? No. That may be true. I don't even want to waste the time to try to even concede that. That may be true, because it was around this time last year that they started seeing negatives. And I feel like that, yes, the PC Game Pass growth could have helped here to where because they saw a 1%, just so we're aware, I believe it was a 1%. Matter of fact, let me check Twitter, because I think I bookmarked those. Let me see. I think I bookmarked where. Damn, I didn't. Let me go to. Let me look up, what's his name? Totilo. There you go, Stephen Totilo. He had something on this. Oh, it's the wrong one. Let's look at. Okay, I'm gonna continue. He put up a chart that has showed where Xbox is overall. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Stephen Totilo of Axis. He says, okay, here it goes. Microsoft's gaming revenue for 12 months ending June 30th versus year prior, down 764 million. Hardware revenue down 11%. Service revenue down 3%. So it says, first party decline offset by Game Pass growth. And it says in quarterly earnings, although services like Game Pass and an expansion into PC gaming have helped Xbox in growth overall. Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to highlight this, and I'll show you, is you got to be very careful with Jazz. Jazz can be very deceitful in his wording, even though he puts out an interesting article. He still tries to slide some things in there to try to be favorable to Xbox that are very deceitful. Here goes the report. Microsoft's quarterly report that he's referring to, down 764 million. Hardware is down. Revenue is down 11%. Services revenue down 3%. And it says first party decline offset by Game Pass growth. So what he's saying is that Game Pass did grow, but overall the services sector that includes the software sales, the first party sales, and including Game Pass, it was down 3%. So the growth wasn't good enough. But Jazz makes it sound like, he says, the way this is worded, it says services like Game Pass and an expansion into PC gaming have helped keep Xbox in growth overall. No, there is no growth overall. It's down. I think I did see somewhere where there was like a 1% growth in something. Oh, but according to, unless Steven is wrong, I don't think he is. Let me go check out Derek. Derek is another. Oh, no. Benji Sales. Benji Sales is great at this stuff. We will see. This was just a few days ago. He said, let's see here. Taking a look at Benji Sales. You got to be careful with Jazz. Very careful with Jazz. All right, so here goes the Nintendo results. Let's see if we'll find the Xbox results. We're looking. Okay, he talked about it on his show. But we're coming. Okay, all right. So maybe he's okay. Here we go. So the overall gaming revenue grew 1%. But how is that possible? He says gaming revenue grew 1%. Xbox content and services grew 5%. Xbox Game Pass, content and services grew 5%. Xbox hardware revenue declined 13%. Oh, okay. All right. So we're looking at two different litmuses. Okay, all right. Which this is the bigger litmus. This is the more impactful litmus. This is the quarter, because this is a quarterly litmus. This is comparing the fiscal quarter 4 of fiscal year 2023 to quarter 3. And what Steven does is he just looks at the big picture. We're going to compare fiscal 23 to fiscal 22. And that's where, and you see, and that's where the disparity is. Okay, got it. Makes sense. So Jez is not lying. He says, indeed, Microsoft's hardware output was down 13% year over year in its quarterly earnings, although services like Xbox Game Pass and an expansion into PC gaming have helped keep Xbox in growth overall. It's still deceitful because he's taken two litmuses and he's merged them together. They saw growth quarter to quarter, but they didn't see it year to year. I would just take this whole part out. Or I would say, in quarterly comparisons, Xbox did see growth. And what did they see growth in, according to Benji? In gaming revenue. But in year-to-year comparisons, they're down 13% overall. It's not, again, he's trying to play word salad and wordplay with something to make it sound better than what it is. That doesn't help. We got to tell the severity of what's going on. The bigger litmus, the bigger comparison, the year-over-year comparison, the year-over-year prospect is worse. If your quarter 4s are normally better than your quarter 3s, why does it even matter that you went up 1%? You know what I'm saying? Like, why doesn't, if that could be just the ebb and flow that your quarter 4s are bigger than your quarter threes. So who cares in that instance? But let's continue on. But again, I'm glad this is something that we came across early, because this helps frame how careful we got to be in reading this, because I haven't read this before. I have an inkling of where he's going to go, but I don't know in totality. So it's important to do that with Jazz. Cold Blood says, I exploited the ish out of Game Pass. I got some gold keys for dirt cheap from Turkey, used a VPN to redeem them, and just paid $1 to convert it to Ultimate. Now I got it till 2025, and I'm counting as Game Pass growth. Laugh out loud. I wish I would have done that. You know what I did? I was doing this thing where you had to do it month to month. They got me a couple of months. They got me for about 32 bones. Because I wasn't paying attention. I got a Game Pass for $1 for a couple of months, and I was supposed to, cancel my subscription, and I didn't, and they got me. So it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, now they've switched how these promotions work, and you're gonna have to pay full price for it. And they need it. But let's continue on with Jez's article. He said, I wrote an article a little while ago noting that with Xbox's focus on its huge Activision Blizzard acquisition, Xbox Cloud Gaming, and PC, the Xbox console experience is suffering. Development on the Xbox console dashboard has slowed to a snail's pace. And many fan requested improvements have simply not been implemented, although we've seen a trickle of new features for things like Discord and the like. Meanwhile, Sony is plowing ahead with a much expected 2024 redesign of its PlayStation 5. Ahead of a more powerful PlayStation 5 Pro for 2024 or 2025, from what I've heard, Xbox is not exploring a major power revision for the Xbox Series X by comparison, and will likely complete the gen with the only minor refreshes like the Xbox Series S Carbon Black, although I wouldn't call that confirmed information as of right now. With PlayStation's victory in this generation all but assured already, perhaps Microsoft could find wins elsewhere, right? Microsoft is a cloud-first company, exactly, with Azure making up the bulk of its envious profit margins in recent years. Stands to reason the firm would be an industry leader in cloud gaming, right? Well, lately it feels a bit like Microsoft is ready to concede cloud gaming to PlayStation as well, on top of home console gaming. Xbox cloud shrinks while PlayStation grows. And it's showing you this queue is taking longer than expected. Now, some could argue that this is because it's gaining in popularity. Like I will say that we don't know for sure what's going on with Xbox cloud gaming as far as saturation and engagement. It seems like that it's been getting a lot more usage since Grand Theft Auto 5 hit the platform, but it doesn't look like that Grand Theft Auto 5 hitting the platform is being addressed as far as these queues are concerned. It's just, okay. And I'm seeing people have told me that the queues have been 25 minutes long. Says I've been quite bullish about Xbox cloud gaming in the past. Microsoft was ahead of the curve in this area and still is in a lot of ways. They were never ahead of the curve. They were only ahead of the curve in conversation. They were ahead of the curve in marketing. That's it. As far as the offerings were concerned, they were never ahead of the curve. Never. Never. Does it mean that the offerings don't have value to a sector of gamers? No. But to say that they were ahead of the curve is bullpucky. I will give them credit for Well, I'll put it like this. They were never ahead of the curve earlier on. The only thing that they were ahead of the curve on was its utilization of Fortnite. That threw it in the gangbusters. That they deserve a lot of credit on. That was the smartest move that they made for the platform, and probably the only smart move that they made for the platform was the way that they've implemented the free version into you being able to play Fortnite. That's it. So again, you gotta watch Jazz. Hold on. Why is this not? It's the only cloud gaming platform that provides a relative no. It's a lie. It's the only cloud gaming platform that provides a relatively seamless console-like experience on mobile devices, complete with bespoke touch controls. This is a lie. This is why you got to watch him. He's a liar. It's a lie. It's seamless. Like, I can get right into a game on Amazon. It's seamless on GFN now. Especially if you got GeForce Now Ultimate. It's a lot faster and a lot more frictionless than GeForce. I mean, it's a lot more, GeForce Now is a lot more frictionless, particularly through Ultimate. Amazon is super fast. But what is he talking about? Anywho, the list of games in the Xbox Game Pass cloud are also incredibly impressive. Now, that I won't take that away from him. That is the big draw to me for Xbox Cloud Gaming is the game library. Game library is impressive, and the fact that you get that library for $15 a month, that's it. That's the heart and core of Xbox Game Pass. It's not the performance, it's not the seamless. That's baloney. It is the access to games for a very, very minimum price, and the type of games that you get access to. List of games in Game Pass is incredibly impressive, and Xbox Cloud Gaming has, oh my God, no. This is a lie. He says, has some of the best latency and is only outmatched by NVIDIA GeForce Now. That's a lie. That is a lie. Everything is better than Xbox Cloud Gaming except for maybe PlayStation Cloud Gaming as far as latency is concerned. Everything is better. This is a lie. Here he goes with NVIDIA GeForce Now's convoluted mix of Steam and other launchers isn't a particularly intuitive experience, despite being the best overall in terms of speed. And then we have PlayStation Plus, formerly PlayStation Now, which has been quite growing in the background. Okay, so the GeForce Now, when originally setting up a store for NVIDIA GeForce Now, if you're doing it from a mobile device, it can be cumbersome because it tries to put you in big picture mode. No, that can be cumbersome. I'm not going to front. But once you get that store enacted and you start playing NVIDIA GeForce Now, even on mobile, and those are the three stores: the Ubisoft store, the not yet. The Ubisoft store, the Epic Games store, and what's the other store in Steam? Once you get those stores connected, it's a seamless experience. I play all the time on mobile with NVIDIA GeForce Now. It's seamless. I mean, is it Stadia seamless? No, none of these are. But that is just baloney. It's baloney. So this is why we got to point this stuff out with Jazz. He says Sony was among the first to idea of cloud gaming, having purchased services like Gaikai a few years back. That is true. I was reminded of articles like this from The Verge in 2019, which talked about Sony squandered its cloud gaming potential. Increasingly, it's looking like early skepticism of Sony's cloud gaming aspirations may have been misplaced. Lately, there has been a flurry of activity in the Sony camp with regarding to the cloud, and analytically, it couldn't come at a worse time for Microsoft and Xbox. I can corroborate a report from Brad Sams on YouTube that Microsoft has been restructuring its cloud gaming business, with some staff being moved to other departments. I've heard that Microsoft has also reduced allocations for cloud servers in certain territories, notably the UK. While Xbox cloud gaming continues to suffer from increased queues. So this is interesting. So maybe it isn't due to the success of Grand Theft. I mean, that could be a contributor, but it sounds like more than anything, they're diverting resources. And then there's this from Brad Sams. Oh, we gotta see this. We can't watch it now. Oh. Hold on. We got our fair. Okay, so let's mute this. Let's hear this from Brad Sams and see what he has to say. And I love Brad Sams. I don't always agree with him and his gaming choices, but he's a very fair, down the middle reporter. So let's hear what he has to say.
Reports where this is really becoming a kind of a finer point. And there's a lot of data to back up that Microsoft might be just kind of falling out of favor with this model. During the major massive acquisition trials and everything else that was going on, Sarah Bond over at Xbox actually said, hey, look, it's the least popular feature, and says the service is actually running at a loss. And if you're Amy Hood, who is the CFO over at Microsoft, if there's one thing you really don't like doing, it's operating a service at a loss. And so how do you do that? Well, you make changes and you shift strategies. And what it really feels like, and I think Google experiences too with Stadia, is that cloud gaming is really just a feature. It's not a product. I've said that before. And that Microsoft is very much going down that route again, which it does make things a little bit awkward because of their Ultimate and their streaming setups, and they're getting rid of Xbox Live. And one of the features they want you to pay more for is with this. But at the end of the day, it's again just a feature and not the primary product at the end of the day. And actually, hilariously, if you remember during this whole trial here, during the CMA and everything else, one of the things that was the real big sticking point in the CMA in the UK was actually Microsoft's cloud gaming service. And they're like, look, you need to figure something out here because this could be the future market. And here's Microsoft kind of quietly saying, no, it's really not actually our future, and we'll be happy to make changes because we're not making any money doing it. And actually, as of July 31st, Microsoft refiled in the UK to get to, bring you up to speed on the CMA to kind of push this deal through, which is going to go through, but they got to make concessions. And the TLDR of it is that Microsoft filed and said, look, with all these new deals, with the new Call of Duty stuff, with the new cloud gaming arrangements, we don't know if we necessarily need to spin something out, but at the end of the day, they're still able to do that if it's going to appease the CMA. It was a heavily redacted document that Microsoft submitted about how they are going to approach solving these quandaries finally and forever. But given this information right here, do you think Microsoft would be all that sad to kind of hand over a product that runs at a loss to a third party? It doesn't really seem that way. Now,
all right, so I'm going to play this part.
up to 60 minutes. Now that is quite a bit of time, and this person says that they were paying for Ultimate, so we'll just have to take them at their word. But if you're paying for a product and says, look, you can't play this game for an hour, and then they actually go on to say, look, it ended up crashing and then I got re-put back in the queue and there just wasn't time, that, my friends, is not exactly a premium experience if you're paying money for this kind of a service. Now, cloud gaming does work. People can play it. I was able to play it. I can still play it. I can still log into the browser and have no issues, but there's been enough reports where this is really becoming a kind of a finer point. And there's a lot of data to back up that Microsoft might be just kind of falling out of favor with this model.
So there you have it, folks. Brad Sams. He's trying to defend Microsoft's approach that this is not a market, and that's baloney. You don't, fanboys and fangirls of a platform and a company that has the incentive of trying to spend $70 billion to do what Microsoft is trying to do. And so therefore it's in their best interest because they had a losing attempt at cloud gaming. Them saying that it's not a market, that doesn't define the market. The market defines what markets are. And you don't watch the CAGR of services. I mean, not services. You don't watch the CAGR of features. The compound annual growth rate. We don't do that for features. You do that for potential markets. Xbox isn't making any money on xCloud because the service isn't appealing enough. It's very easy to say that. It's very easy to surmise from a lot of different information and takes and things about Stadia that Stadia wasn't making a bunch of money, but Stadia was making some money. That's why they were able to implement their profit sharing. It was pretty much a profit sharing thing. They were making some profits, but it was nothing huge. Where Xbox is losing money because why? Because for all the server upkeep and everything that they're doing for xCloud, they're really not getting a lot of usage out of it. And what's shocking to me is I would have thought that their implementation of Fortnite would have made it profitable. But it appears that even though there's a lot of usage because of Fortnite, those people aren't buying DLCs. Because if they were to be buying DLCs on while playing Fortnite via Xbox's cloud service, you would assume that they would be making gangbusters. So apparently these people aren't playing in a dedicated fashion on xCloud. So they must be losing money that way. So yeah, if you got all these servers operating and you're giving this free access to all these Fortnite players and they're not buying DLC via Fortnite, then yeah, I can see where they're losing money. That's a Microsoft thing. The product just isn't good enough. That's a them problem. Again, cloud gaming is just a 1% business, so there's not a lot of money in it. You're just reinvesting. You're taking this nominal revenue or profit that you may see, and it's going into your infrastructure, profit sharing to purchase more games, whatever. You're just reinvesting that. There's no substantial profit that you're going to get and just put into your stockpile when it comes to this. It's going right back in. That's compound. That's why the compound annual growth. This is not a revenue source right now. This is an investment vehicle, and whatever revenue you do get it's going to go right back in. But that revenue that you do get for every dollar that you put in, you're going to get a lot back more into it. That's why its CAGR is hovering around anywhere between 34 to 49%. And the last time I looked at it, and that's fantastic for a niche market like cloud gaming. So don't listen to these people that have a divided interest in Microsoft succeeding because that's what they want emotionally. They don't get to determine what a market is. The market determines what a market is. That being said, I'm surprised to hear that for Microsoft, because that means that even their best foot forward isn't working. But that's because with cloud gaming, for you to even have a chance, the infrastructure has to be viable. And I know a lot of people look at me and say, xCloud works for me. It's good for me. It's good. It's not good enough. This is why I tell you, even if things are good for you, you got to look at things from 5,000 feet. It has to be good enough at a broader scale. That's why I had conversations with people when they were like, 60 frames per second isn't needed in games. And is it? No, don't talk like that. When you look at the bigger picture of the consumer base, they're caring about, not all of them, but a lot of them care about 60 frames per second. Even though it's not important to you, make sure that they're getting it. Make sure they're getting it. Because that's going to be important for the platform. It's not about what's important. That's the problem that we have too. And I think in the immaturity of some of the newer gamers, they want to take what's important for them and want Fortune 500 companies to live and die off of what only works for them. They are not realists. They are not, self-aware that, okay, this is something for me, but they might have to operate at a different level to support the business. If you don't have that understanding, then you're not going to understand the business decisions that need to be made for the thing that you like to be successful. Yeah, that's a shame for xCloud. They're not even seeing growth within because of the Fortnite deal. That's sad. All right, let's continue on. They say, now part of this might be due to the Activision deal, to speculate, perhaps cynically. The UK regulator threatened to block Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition on the grounds of cloud gaming after all, and it might not be particularly great optics to push ahead with an expansion here. And you know what? That's a fair assessment. I think that's a fair assessment. I'm not, there are even some expectations that Microsoft may divest UK cloud gaming in its entirety to a third-party operator, like UK Telecom's giant BT. Microsoft worked hard to undermine its own cloud operations during the regulatory battles. They sure did, with US FTC and UK CMA, with Microsoft President Brad Smith even appearing on BBC Radio to downplay its significance to the firm. Indeed, Microsoft supposedly only has the capacity for a few thousand concurrent users in the UK, a stat that might be useful to know if you're a competitor looking to leapfrog Microsoft's position. According to reports, that's exactly what Sony is doing right now. Insider Gaming has very well connected sources with PlayStation recently, and they recently dropped a report on what Sony calls Chronos, the code name for its cloud gaming expansion plan. Sony is looking to grow its cloud gaming footprint with 28 new data centers, which aims to launch more broadly in spring next year. Sony is exploring handheld devices for remote play with this Project Q handheld. And sure, it doesn't support cloud right now, but future versions could conceivably do so. Sony also recently detailed its plan to begin bringing PlayStation 5 games to its PlayStation Plus cloud streaming service. And yes, while it remains far behind Xbox's Game Pass cloud service in terms of content breadth and features, the gap is rapidly closing. I'm going to say this. I don't know what feature breadth that they're talking about. I will say that I mean, when I look at what the service, because it operates a little bit differently from Xbox, and I would say as far as the feature breadth that it offers, like they both offer you cloud gaming. I will concede, even with its faults, at this time of this recording, xCloud is better than PlayStation Plus's cloud offerings. It's better, significantly better. There's no doubt about it. That being said, when you look at Game Pass versus Xbox altogether, I mean, you can argue that Xbox's personal software commitments are more robust because they're offering day and date. But to say that I legitimately find myself playing PlayStation Plus more than I'm playing Game Pass. There's really nothing in Game Pass that is alluring. Why? Because the biggest draw to Game Pass is its own day and date content, which for the most part is trash. How was it trash? I don't care that I can play Redfall there. I don't really care about Halo Infinite. The only game that I cared about that was in Game Pass was Tunic. I can buy that on Steam. I'd rather just do that. And I think Tunic is on NVIDIA GeForce Now anyway. I'd rather just buy it outright and play it on GeForce Now. It's all trash. Where now, even though you're getting them a year later, now I can play Horizon Forbidden West in there. And then they may not be available on the cloud. I'm talking solely the subscription service, but they still have, as part of PlayStation Plus Premium, I can now play the PlayStation monthly awarded games as well, where Xbox is now they stopped that. They've stopped the Xbox Live with Gold. The Xbox Live moniker is now gone, which is sad. RIP Xbox Live. So, as far as I don't get what he's saying there. I don't understand that again. But this is the part where he bloviates and says things that just are very questionable, or at best, or frankly not true. I mean, look, I can, in the demos that are in there, I can play Tiny Tina's Wonderland, and I get access to really sought after games that I don't get through in game. Like Game Pass gives you a bunch of games that may be worth you trying out, where PlayStation Plus is putting in your hands more sought after games. Not only their games, but third party games. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Tiny Tina's Wonderland and other games, where like other third party heavily sought after games. What's in Game Pass? Okay, Grand Theft Auto. And I'm not talking subjectively. Nobody wants to play Exoprimal. Nobody wants to play Redfall. Like, what are the heavily sought after games in Game Pass? The very first one in a long time, if ever. Well, I will say, MLB was one, but the very first really significant game. Well, okay, I'll say Halo Infinite was one until like a month after release. Now nobody cares about that one. But the really significant one that has significant staying power coming to Game Pass is Starfield. That's probably going to be the first game in 3 years that has significant staying power and in the platform in its inception in 3 or 4 years. Like right now, like as soon as they threw God of War in PlayStation Now, before that became PlayStation Plus, that was a heavily sought after service. It doubled in revenue. When they dropped the price and put God of War in there, it doubled in price. I mean, it doubled in subscribers. Like in 1 month, it doubled in subscribers. It went from 1 million to 2 million subscribers in 1 month. I don't know if Game Pass ever had 1 million months growth in 1 month alone. I don't know. But Game Pass is okay in offering you a plethora of games, a plethora of interesting, maybe try 'em games. But when your best offering is your first party games that don't really move the needle at this moment, and we're going to see what Starfield does. Like I said, Starfield is the first game that they're putting in there with real potential staying power. But you got games like Spider-Man, God of War, and Horizon Forbidden West going into PlayStation Now, along with the top-notch games that they're awarding you through the Essential tier. I at this moment, as of right now, PlayStation Plus Premium is a way better. I'm just a subscription service. I'm not talking about the cloud offerings. I'm talking subscription service. The subscription service, as far as the offerings are concerned, are more robust. The demos, all that stuff. So again, this is just more conjecture trying to be tossed, and again, easily debunkable conjecture that's being tossed out as fact. No. Maybe a year or two ago, before PlayStation revamped and merged PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus, I think you could have made the argument, even with some of with Xbox Game Pass's lackluster catalog. You could have made that argument. Not now. Oh no. Like I said, the game demos, the access to more sought after titles, stuff like that. So I don't understand. I don't know what feature set he's talking about, but whatever. It says in Insider, okay, and it says Sony is looking to grow its cloud gaming footprint with 20 new data centers, which it aims to launch more broadly in spring next year. Sony is exploring handheld devices for remote play with Project Q handheld. And sure, it doesn't support cloud right now, but the version could conceivably do so. Sony also recently detailed its plans to begin bringing PlayStation 5 games to its PlayStation Plus cloud streaming service. And yes, while it remains far, this is the part we just read. While it remains far behind Xbox Game Pass cloud service. Oh, cloud service. Okay, all right. Okay, I missed that part. Xbox clouds are in terms of content, breadth, and features. The gap is rapidly closing. Now, this part, okay, I'll concede that. That was my bad. I didn't see the cloud part in there. I didn't see that. I just saw Game Pass service. No, I totally, at the time of this recording, PlayStation's cloud service doesn't compete with Game Pass's cloud service. I will say that. But if you talk about this, if you're comparing the subscription services, no, we're having a totally different discussion there. PlayStation leapfrogs Xbox on major cloud features. Microsoft announced quite a while ago that its long-term plan for Xbox cloud gaming was to allow players to play games they actually own in the service rather than being restricted to the limited selection in the Game Pass Ultimate. This news was particularly exciting to hear, since many of the games that make sense for a low latency experience simply aren't available on Xbox Game Pass. But we're years out from that announcement now, and it still hasn't materialized. They actually said this was coming at the end of 2022 when they pushed it back to the end of 2022. First it was 2020, right? Then it was to 2022, and now there's nothing. Meanwhile, PlayStation unexpectedly in June announced that it will be forging ahead with this feature instead for supported games. Yes, that is significant. Whilst that list of supported games may be small ones finalized, the idea of PlayStation leapfrogging Microsoft, the so-called cloud company, yes, thank you. Whilst that list, let's read that again. Whilst that list of supported games may be small once finalized, the idea of PlayStation leapfrogging Microsoft, the so-called cloud company, on this much awaited feature will be a tough pill to swallow for Xbox cloud gaming users. Absolutely, that is the point. All of you that reached out to me after I made my post, I'm not talking about Jack. Jack was just being tongue-in-cheek. I mean, I think Jack legitimately had a rebut for what I had to say, but he was being tongue-in-cheek about it. But all of you, which wasn't a lot, I'm being over-dramatic, but the handful of you that reached out to me dismayed, yeah, man, why making this into a story? Why making this a big deal? I'm not the one making this a big deal. The Xbox gamer is, and I'm for it. Why? Not to beat down Xbox, but to get them to do better. If I'm an Xbox gamer, I concede that PlayStation's approach to cloud gaming at this moment and PlayStation's approach to accessing its games outside of its hardware is asinine in a lot of ways. I get that they make a profit on their hardware, so therefore they want to take the Apple approach. Like Apple has this stupid thing, like we had Apple Plus or Apple Music, right? But none of us had iPods. So we wanted to sign up for the family service because there was like 4 of us that used the Apple thing. And we were like, well, instead of paying $40, let's get the family plan where it's like, I think $19.99 or something like that. You can't sign up for the family plan unless you own an Apple device. How stupid is that? We have your Apple service. So why is Apple Music natively, why is Apple Music family being tethered to me having an Apple device? You don't need an Apple device to run the service, right? So now you're also telling me that I can't enjoy your games unless I have your hardware? I get you making a profit on the hardware, but what's going to happen is that minimum profit, like but PlayStation okay, maybe they're making like $50, $60 on a console. And yeah, that can add up when you're selling 150 million of them over time. But don't you think that you can far surpass that? For every person that you force to buy your console that don't mind doing it, I can guarantee you there might be another 2 or 3 that are saying, no, I just won't get the console. Even though you got a lot of people and you have the most consoles being put out there over X amount of time, I guarantee you that there are gamers that say, you know what? No, I would love to play your games, but maybe I play games elsewhere and I don't want to buy a full console just to play your 2 to 3 games every year. And so when you factor in the fact that you're only making maybe $60 on each console you sell over a lifetime versus me spending $180 that you get to keep, $120 to $180 that you get to keep for every 1 to 2 first-party games, each year, don't you think you're losing out? That's why I feel like it's asinine. I get maybe staggering day one releases on PC and cloud because you don't want to divert resources that may be needed to deal with patches for the console version. So I get it. Maybe it's not day and date in the cloud. Maybe it comes in the cloud a month or two later after you've, gone through all the rigors of the launch on the console. And maybe for PC, because PC would be way more complicated, maybe for PC it comes 6 months later. But simply restricting people because they don't have the hardware, the native hardware, to me is asinine. I don't like it for Apple, and I don't think it's necessary here. I mean, I don't like it. I will say this. I don't like it for Apple, and I don't like it here. I get why they're doing it. They're doing it because of their rabid fan base that feels like PlayStation games should only be available on a PlayStation device. To me, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. If you allowed your games to be accessible to other people along with the device, that's more revenue that Sony is getting to make better games. Now, I'm not totally for there should be no more exclusives, but wherever your ecosystem is available on, but I still think you should be device agnostic. Like, I don't believe just putting your games on Xbox with it. Now, I don't believe in that, because you gotta make your box lucrative. I get that part. But wherever your app is, or wherever you can access your games, albeit a dongle, whatever, make the games available there at some point in time, is what I feel. In a reasonable point in time. So, yeah, I don't agree with that. And I like Microsoft's approach to a degree. But if you make, but I like their approach as far as not being being hardware agnostic. I appreciate that. I don't like the day and date in the subscription service, because that business model deters you getting the income that you need to continue to make AAA powerhouses. If you're making AAA games in name only, and they're trash due in part due to the lack of investment because you're relying on a subscription service, then that's a problem. I don't think you need to tether your game to only your hardware. I think you tether it to wherever your access is, and you just make money off of the app access, which, again, in order for me to access the cloud, I got to pay for PlayStation Plus Premium. I don't have a problem with that. I'll pay the $17 a month opposed to having to buy the console. Just because, like, I pay for NVIDIA GeForce Now, $20 a month. So that's fine. But me having to fork out $500 up front to get access to your game, I don't think that's a necessity. And I think that really hurts you, but I get why you're doing it, because the reputational risk that you would gain from your clientele would do more harm than good. And that's a shame. I don't believe in day and date subscription services. I think that cannibalizes the revenue that you can get to make bigger and better games. I don't think day and date on cloud or day and date on PC does that necessarily, unless you're talking about support. If it pulls support from the release on the console and on the cloud, then okay, I can get where you stagger those. But I don't get tethering the hardware to me accessing it on the cloud. I think that's stupid. And what it does is, for every person that says I'll get the hardware, and for every $60 to $70 that you make off the hardware for a lifetime, I think you lose out on the opportunity for between $120 to $180 each year if you would open up the access. So that's my only issue. It says not content with beating Microsoft. It says okay, let me read this again. It says PlayStation leapfrogging Microsoft, the so-called cloud company, on this much-awaited feature will be a tough pill to swallow for Xbox cloud gaming users. Not content with beating Microsoft in this area, PlayStation has now begun rolling out 4K streaming to cloud beta testers. With Xbox cloud gaming at best, you can stream 1080 streaming. And sure, 4K streaming might be ideal for most home network conditions, which again, the reason why this is baloney, the reason why PlayStation is rolling out 4K streaming is because the codecs and the bandwidth needed to operate 4K streaming, the technology behind that has become so efficient that it's not going to bog down your network the way it once did. Like we're 3 years removed or 4 years removed from Stadia doing it first, and it didn't really bog you down that much back then. The technology is so much far ahead in those 4 years. But this is where you have ignorance and a detachment from the root of cloud gaming. This is what you're hearing from here. But if Sony can leapfrog Microsoft with technology delivery as well in this area, it presents an existential crisis for Xbox. It felt like Microsoft was betting it all on cloud gaming future at one point, and I do agree with that. Using the cloud to reach gamers across any device, no matter where they are at any one time. Is Microsoft throwing in the towel again before seeing it through? Yes, that is Microsoft. That is the problem. This right here, there have been no truer words spoken from Jazz. That is the crux of the issue. As a matter of fact, I need to change the font here or change the color scheme. I don't want to use yellow. Let's use green. Let's add. All right. That is the crux of what's the problem is here. Is Microsoft throwing in the towel again before seeing it through completion? Here's what it feels like Microsoft does. Microsoft gets presented a presentation. Somebody says, look, we want to do this thing. Phil Spencer's there, whoever, Matt Booty's there. And the presentation is good. And the presentation is good on paper. Oh man, yeah, we're going to be able to do this. Oh man, and people are hopeful. And then what happens is Phil Spencer, he says, "All right, we're going to greenlight this project. Let's do it." And so then when you greenlight a project like that, it is called being in flight. It's an industry term. It's in flight, meaning we're trying to get there. We're planning to reach this destination. It's in flight. But normally, you don't celebrate a plan. You don't celebrate a project while it's in flight. You celebrate it once it gets past major milestones, and it's coming in when it's in the closing stage. Like normally when people go pick you up from the airport, if you're on a 5-hour flight, they don't show up at the airport within 30 minutes of your flight departing its destination. Nobody does that. They wait until they come within that hour, maybe 30 minutes, so they can be there. You know what I'm saying? Like they make sure that they're there at the airport waiting for you 30 minutes to an hour of your flight to land, right? Nobody comes while you're in flight halfway through, right? Right. Unless it's a short flight. But let's just say you got a 5-hour flight. Nobody's coming within that first hour and waiting for you. That doesn't make any sense. But what Phil Spencer and company do is while it's in flight, before all of the major milestones have been crossed, they get up there on stage and tell you, this is what we're going to do. And they tell you in a way that I guess it was given to them in the presentation. We're going to be able to do this. Cloud gaming on xCloud is going to do this and do that and do this and do that. And then when they go to the final milestones, it doesn't work the way that they just said it does. So they got to do what Jess says. Is now they got to throw in the towel before making this thing work all the way. That is incompetence. And then it gets down to downright deceiving, because the first few times you do it, maybe to give you the benefit of the doubt, it's based on incompetence. But now you're doing it because you can get away with it. I can keep telling you these grandiose things and they'll never land. They just remain in flight and just crash and burn, for lack of a better term. They never land the way that they're supposed to, or they end up at a whole nother airport and it's totally different from what you were promised. That's the problem. That is the reason for consistent scrutiny of Xbox. Is Microsoft throwing in the towel again before seeing it through to completion? Or is there something else going on behind the scenes? Outlook, cloudy, what's going on? Okay, let's take a look here. What could be happening? Microsoft conceded during its regulatory hearing that Xbox cloud gaming isn't profitable right now. And why would it be? Apple and Google's duopolistic control over how developers can monetize and grow business. Oh my God. What is this foolery? Can grow business on their closed, anti-competitive mobile platforms effectively precludes Microsoft in particular from growing a viable catalog base. What is he talking about? What does that have to do with xCloud and Google in particular, who's not asking for 30% off of what xCloud, what are they talking about? But even if Apple and Google weren't blocking Microsoft from selling content through, he's talking about selling content through Xbox or through xCloud. Okay, I see what he's saying. He said, okay, well, look. Can't I can buy game. I don't have the Xbox app, do I? No, I don't have the Xbox app. Okay, this is what you do, man. If they're not making the purchase, all they have to do is, if you want to buy an Xbox game, you got your little card there. You send them to the browser. Why can't you just, they gotta go through the browser. You can't make the purchase through the app. Just make them do it through the browser, right? That's allowable. Like if I wanted to right now, go on Safari and buy an Xbox game and add it to my catalog, I can do it, right? Yeah. Doesn't that circumvent? I don't know. This is, but weren't blocking Microsoft from selling content through Xbox Cloud Gaming in their app stores. It wouldn't matter. Xbox Cloud Gaming doesn't have enough servers. Microsoft can't market Xbox Cloud Gaming because it doesn't have enough capacity to meet the demands of its current and tiny user base. Growing Xbox Cloud Gaming would essentially mean dedicating more Xbox Series X Silicon to server farms rather than, and this is the failure. This extenuates the failure of xCloud. This is the biggest bottleneck of xCloud. The design choice to put Xbox Series X silicon or to make the servers based off of the console. That is the failure. Where nobody is doing that. And I guess they felt like this was the easiest conversion, but this is so limiting because what it does is when you operate it this way, you're basically limiting the output capacity to what the consoles can do. Like for instance, because I can only develop Starfield to operate at 30 frames per second on the console, and the console is what makes up the server blade, I can only get 30 frames per second in the cloud. Where 60 frames per second gaming in the cloud should be elementary, right? At this point. That was a horrible, the architecture of their cloud. That was the biggest problem. That's why they aren't able to realize, if Microsoft with their money would have just went to the server blade route without it being the Xbox if they would have did something else, what everybody else is doing, and not have the hardware that's in the server blades, a direct extension of the console itself, I feel like Xbox Cloud Gaming would probably be the premier performer, because they definitely wanted to plug money into this. It would be the premier way to game in the cloud. And I would concede that. I would be feeling the same. I would concede that. But because they went this route, this is at the core. Here, let me. This is at the core. Let me make that blue. Is what's stifling Xbox Cloud Gaming's performance. Is that? It's simply that. Microsoft can't deliver 4K cloud gaming because it doesn't have enough capacity, and the ability to play games you actually own. Because it doesn't have enough capacity, it's unclear right now why Microsoft is struggling so much to get silicon it needs to meet the demand for its Xbox Cloud Gaming platform or its Xbox Series X sales effort. But with Starfield and other high quality upcoming Xbox games around the corner, the opportunity to capitalize is slipping. Even if access to silicon was infinite, perhaps Microsoft ran the numbers and realized that with Apple and Google making it practically impossible to monetize the service on mobile, maybe there simply isn't a point where Xbox Cloud Gaming becomes financially viable. Do you hear this? So here's the problem with that. Don't get me wrong. A large gaming populace, if cloud gaming works well or feels right, would utilize their iPhone or their Android device to cloud game. And that would mean that Xbox would have to, give 30% of all sales to Apple and Google if you're buying direct from the app that's on their app store. That's why I said what Microsoft could probably do, and the reason why Apple does that, and or Google does that, and I think this would be a bigger problem with Apple. Like Apple probably has bylaws to restrict this, where that if you want to buy a game, you don't buy it through the app. It just takes you to Safari. Maybe Apple has laws or rules to restrict that. I don't think Google would have that. But even if they would have that, if you want to buy games, you got to buy them on your desktop. Please go to soandso.com on your desktop to purchase these games. And then as Microsoft, you have this great running service that people can't buy the games for the service on their phones. So now they got to buy them on a desktop, which is asinine. That's going to create fervor and ire against Apple and Google, to where they might concede and say, okay, as long as you're not making it directly through the app, because their argument is our app has certain securities and stuff through it that, we charge for. We're granting you but if you're doing it straight from Safari or Chrome or a browser on an Android, that they reasonably shouldn't charge you for that. It's an inconvenience to have to be warped to that browser, but okay, fine. But that doesn't tell the whole story. They can make these purchases on TVs. They can make these purchases through browsers. We did survey after survey after survey. And we found that most people that game in the cloud are doing it via their laptop or their TVs. Now, granted, mobile usage could grow and take up a larger portion of that, but you're still going to have a significant portion doing it through their laptops and their PCs, their underpowered laptops and through their underpowered laptops and TVs. I meant with these smart TVs. And even if you did, in the worst case scenario, where you did give 30% to Apple and Google, and so then that makes it to where you're only taking 40% home for multi-plats, and then 70% even for your first party. That's 40% and 70% of billions of gamers that you would be selling zero to. I repeat, that's 30 to 40% that you would be selling zero to. So 40 to 70% of game purchases from billions of gamers, potential gamers, is a lot more than 100% of zero. This is where Jez's argument makes no sense. It needs to be thrown out the window. It's absolutely asinine. He needs to get off this kick. It doesn't do him well. So he says, Xbox, maybe there isn't a point where Xbox cloud gaming benefits financially viable. That's baloney. With Xbox set to suffer as a result, perhaps all this could have been avoided if Microsoft didn't have its given up on its own mobile. They would have gotten more, but again, 40 to 70% of the revenue from a potential 3 billion consumers, or how many consumers have cell phones, is a lot more than 100% of zero. That's stupid. I hate his takes. I hate his takes on this type of stuff. I hope that Xbox Cloud Gaming doesn't become another example of an industry trend that Microsoft identified, entered into too early, only to give up too early. I'm not optimistic right now. And that's understandable. But that's my take on his take. I think he has some definite points, and really the two that come to mind is Microsoft throwing in the towel again before seeing it through to completion. Also, growing Xbox cloud gaming would essentially mean dedicating even more Xbox Series X silicon server farms rather than store shelves. And that is at the crux of their problem. I think they felt like they would kill two birds with one stone, just utilize the silicon, and they thought that would be more cost efficient and easier development for them, and it's bit them in the butt. It wasn't a good idea. When looking at the demands of cloud gaming and what it takes to make it efficient and deal with the latency and stuff like that, their current architecture is not good. And they just need to go to pure grade server blades in order to do it. Leave the silicon for the consoles. That's where they messed up. All right, folks, let's read a couple of these comments and then we're out of here. I already read that from Cold Blood. Let's see here. He says, what I can say is nice is to play the 360 games like Gears 2 and 3 that never got a PC release on xCloud and Fable 1 to 3. He says the performance is a different story. Sometimes it's smooth, but then it has moments where it just issues the bed. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not, the games that I play, the only games that I've played on xCloud that were smooth were Forza. Forza was surprisingly smooth wirelessly, and I played Fortnite wired. But that was the best experience I've had with xCloud. Still, again, other than PlayStation Plus, still doesn't compare to the other cloud services. My assessment for Game Pass, if you need someone that never had an Xbox, you will have a lot of good games to play. But if you had a 360, it's pretty much useless, besides some cool third-party games here and there. Yeah, my assessment for Game Pass is, look, it's a niche product unless you get the big ticket games that people want to play in there. And then you got to do it in a way where you convince them to pay $15 a month for it, which they may go for it, opposed to just dropping the $70 for it. You know what I mean? Like, what's 16, or you might as well say $17 now for Game Pass? 17 times what? Well, that's $204. Oh, he got that there. $204 for Game Pass, when I could just buy, if the average gamer buys 2 games a year, that's $140 outright. Why would I spend the extra $34? What am I spending it for? That's what you got to convince me. If it's been no problem for me to just drop the $70 when this game comes out and drop the $70 when that game comes out, why would I keep paying $17 a month to access it? You giving me the deluxe editions? Do I really care about the deluxe editions? Like, casual gamers, they don't get caught up in that. Oh, the deluxe edition, they don't get caught up in that stuff. They just want the core game and that's it. So how are you going to convince me to overpay for this experience? But that's their best hope, is to put those, you got to get those top-notch Desire games, or the service remains niche and it has a low ceiling. So, all right, with that said, that is it. That is our reaction to the story. Very interesting story, but we'll see how all this lands in the long term. It's just, again, it just goes into our journal of things that we're watching when it comes to Xbox. We just need them to do better. We need them to stop talking about things in flight. We need them to execute on their stuff, and but until next time, have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.